My only venture at this moment is re-establishing control over this continent and every person on it.
All my allies are gone. I'm losing.
You can count on the Iron Bank as soon as the gold arrives.
Enough with the clever plans.
New episode 4 footage, let's break it down. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. I'm doing Game of Thrones all season long. There's a couple different scenes that they broke up through the trailer, so I'll just go through this by storyline. So Jon Snow and Daenerys on the beach. She says, enough of these clever plans, clearly directed at Tyrion, who is clever. I drink and I know things. But all of his plans have gone to shit lately, and I think like a lot of the storylines and the twists this season, it's a consequence of where they need the characters and the plot to go. So they need Daenerys to need Jon Snow's help, so they need to take her army away. So that's why Tyrion is a bad battle commander. Because they're in Westeros, he should actually be way better at this than Jaime and Cersei. You see a follow-up on that dragon glass. Jon Snow lights the torch and leads Daenerys into the caves underneath the Dragonstone. So they have this funny Goonies thing going on where they're looking for hidden treasure. They're learning about the Targaryen history, learning about all these supernatural things together. You can kind of see how Jon Snow doesn't know anything about his Targaryen heritage. Daenerys doesn't know much about Dragonglass or the White Walkers, and they're just slowly learning all of these things at the same rate so that by the end of the season or by the beginning of season 8, everybody will have all of the same information. So if you're frustrated that Daenerys has absolutely no idea that Dragonglass is such a big thing, it's just because they're using that as a way for Jon Snow to gain her trust and them to bond, like her learning about her heritage while Jon Snow is getting the thing that he needs so desperately. So just like the dragons swooping by over Jon as he said, "I'm not a Stark," continue to look for more subtle references and winks at Jon Snow secretly being a Targaryen as they explore the caves of Dragonstone. They're more allies of convenience at this point, so I would just expect them to grow closer over the next couple of episodes, because it seems like Jon's gonna be here for a while, but hopefully they don't brush over too many of these character moments. They've kind of been doing that in the last couple of episodes, like where Bran and Sansa have that scene, and then she just walks away after he tells her all this information. Like, wait, there's a lot more we need to talk about. That's mostly just because they need to move the plot so far along. So it almost feels like they're cramming 90 minutes of story into 60 minutes of an episode. So if you feel like they're brushing over the really cool stuff, then that's probably why. Just they need to move things along so quickly, which kind of sucks. But speaking of sucks, Cersei is still working with the Iron Bank, securing another loan. She has to repay her debt before they'll give her the money. So that's why Tycho Nestoris tells her, you'll get everything you want as soon as they get back with the gold. Cut to Jaime and the Lannister army traveling down the Rose Road. They're basically traveling up this road to go back to King's Landing. So it's a location we haven't seen before. It looks pretty cool, but this is basically where they are. We'll see if they make it back safely. I mean, the Dornish are still down here. We don't really know what their status is because they killed the Sand Snakes and the others are captive. So who is leading Dorne? What happened to the army that they were going to pick up there? Is it still around? The Unsullied are going to have to march all the way from Casterly Rock. So maybe the Dornish army is still a thing, but it does seem like Cersei will get the money that she wants from the Iron Bank. It seems like Theon makes it back to Dragonstone, and then you see all these Winterfell scenes. So Winterfell and Dragonstone are probably going to be the two most exciting places, unless there's some big battle that Jaime runs into while he's traveling back to King's Landing. So Winterfell, the big thing here, you see Arya on the horizon looking at it. So one episode after Bran arrives, she arrives. So it's going to be fun to see how that reunion plays out. And I know Brienne is going to town in this clip here, but this is just her training pod. You see him in this clip here on the ground later. We saw some behind the scenes of this. He's just trying to turn him into a better fighter, handing him his ass. He's not doing so hot. But the more exciting thing that a lot of you were messaging me with was this picture of what looks like the cat's paw's Valyrian dagger in Littlefinger's hand. So yes, they're very clearly implying that Littlefinger is going to pull a dagger on someone, but it's a bit misleading the way they cut it because you see Sansa reading through all of Maester Luwin's copied Raven notes. So every time a Raven was sent to or from Winterfell, Maester Luwin copied it. So the theory is that there's a record of Littlefinger's correspondence with the Boltons, and she'll learn of something really treacherous that he was doing, throwing her under the bus when she was going through all that crap with Ramsay. That's probably why the writers gave Bran that moment to tell Sansa how he knew everything that was happening, telling her about her wedding night, which is this horrific moment for her, and Bran just brushes over it like it was the most beautiful thing ever. You in that beautiful white dress, as she's slowly having a panic attack, remembering what happened that night. So all those Maester Luwin letters that they were hinting at in last week's episode probably have something to do with that. Littlefinger probably starts scrambling a little bit. Arya comes back. You can do the math. I feel like they're going to team up to take Littlefinger down. He's my #1 death prediction for the season in terms of really big characters. But you guys can let me know, what do you think is going to happen with Sansa reading these letters? Very clearly, she's going to learn something that's really bad. It is probably going to turn her against Littlefinger if she wasn't already. Sophie Turner was saying that Sansa is wising up to Littlefinger's schemes. So we don't really know what kind of three-dimensional chess Littlefinger is going to be playing in this episode. But typically, like Varys, you expect him to be several moves ahead of anybody he's going up against. But this season has been a little bit weird with the way they've written the characters. So Littlefinger, Varys, just not quite as smart or powerful as they've been in previous seasons. So I feel like that's probably going to be one of the big complaints of the episode. Usually I can tell, just looking from the promo, which storyline people will complain about the most. I feel like this season, it's going to be Littlefinger. There are a lot of Littlefinger fans out there that really want to see him win the Game of Thrones, but the TV show seems like it's throwing him under the Sansa bus. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm really excited to see what they find in those Dragonglass caves underneath Dragonstone. Maybe they'll find some old dragon eggs that have petrified, maybe some more Targaryen flair. Because there's just so much history there, Targaryens have lived there for hundreds of years, and Daenerys has absolutely no idea what's going on. So we as the audience will get to see that for the first time, as she's seeing it for the first time too, along with Jon Snow. But I know now that Jon Snow and Daenerys have come together, people were kind of wondering when Jon's going to learn he's a Targaryen, how he's going to learn. I still think that Bran is going to be the one to literally convey that information, but I feel like the show is going to tell us, the audience, the whole story before the characters find out. So like they'll have a flashback scene, or they'll have something to confirm who Jon Snow's parents are, what his status is, whether or not he's a bastard or a legitimate heir to the Iron Throne. But Jon Snow and Daenerys won't learn anything about that until Season 8. So that might be frustrating, but I'm okay with them postponing a couple storylines to Season 8 as long as they continue to pay some of that mythology off without brushing over it too quickly. There were a lot of people that were wondering why they brushed over that Highgarden battle so far. Where are all the Tyrell soldiers? The way they explained it is the reason why they chose to just skip it was because they implied that the Tyrells were terrible at making war compared to the Lannisters, who had greater numbers because the Tarleys had switched sides and were just much more well-equipped. So you would have just seen a version of them washing over the Tyrell soldiers. It would have been a crazy amount of money to film all those scenes, so they just wanted to use that money elsewhere. There will be big, drawn-out battle episodes, but I feel like the vast majority of their money went to the end of the season when they fight the Night King up at Eastwatch by the Sea. So if you wonder where all the money went, it went to dragons being bigger, and it went to that big final battle. But let me know in the comments, what are you guys most excited for next week? And what'll happen is I'll name the new giveaway winner when I post my Q&A video tomorrow. There'll also be another Rick and Morty promo. But while you wait for everything, you can click here for my episode 3 video, and you can click here to learn all about dragon bonding. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.